श्री श्री रुक्मिणी द्वारकाधीश की जय। श्री श्री रुक्मिणी द्वारकानाथ की जय। श्री श्री गौनिताय की जय। श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा मैया की जय। All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayet Nityam Bhagavatas Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Today we are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 2, verses 14 and 15. I'll read one word each of the verses and then we'll sing it together. Preta Vasheshu Goreshu Prater Bhuta Ganer Vritaha Atati Unmatavam Nagno Vyupta Kesho Hasan Rudan Pretavasheshu Goreshu Prater Bhuta Ganer Vrataha Atati Unmatavam Nagno Vyupta Kesho Hasan Rudan. Now the next word. Chita Bhashma Krita Snanaha Preta Shran Nir Asti Bhushanaha Shivopadesho Hi Asivo Matto Matta Jana Priyaha Pati Pramatha Nathanam Tamo Matrat Makatmanam Chitta Bhashma Kritasnanaha Preta Shranir Asti Bhushana Shivopadesho Hi Asivo Matto Matta Jana Priyaha Pati Pramatha Nathanam Tamo Matra Makatmanam. Okay, one more time. So verse 14. Pretavasheshu Goreshu Preter Bhuta Ganer Vritaha Atati Unmatavam Magno व्युक्तकेशोः संरुदन् चित्तभास्माकृतं स्नाना प्रेताश्रन्नरस्ति भूषणा शिवापादेशो हि असीवो मत्तो मत्ता जनाप्रियः प्रतिपति प्रमाथा नाथानं तमो मत्रा मकात्मनं. One more time. प्रेतावासेषु घोरेषु प्रेतेर्भूता गणैर्वृतः अतति उन्मत्तवं नग्नो युक्तो केशोः संरुदन् चित्तभास्माकृता स्नाना प्रेताश्रन्निरस्ति भूषणा शिवापादेशो हि असीवो मत्तो मता जनाप्रियः पति प्रमाथनाथानं तमो मत्रात्मकात्मनं. हेतिवासेषु घोरेषु प्रेतेर्भूता गणैर्वृतः अतति उन्मत्तवं नग्नो युक्तकेशोः संरुदन् चिताभास्माकृता स्नानं प्रेताश्रन्नरस्ति भूषणा शिवादेशो असीवो माता जनाप्रियः पति प्रमातं नाधानं तमो मात्रामकात्मनं. प्रेतवासेषु घोरेषु प्रेतेर्भूता गणैर्वृतः अतति उन्मत्तः नग्नो युक्तकेशोः संरुदन् चेतभास्माकृता स्नानः प्रेताश्रन्निरस्ति भूषणा शिवपादेशो हि असीवो मत्तो मत्ता जनाप्रियः प्रमाथनाथानं मातृत्मनं. प्रेतवातेषु घोरेषु अतति उन्मत्तवान् नग्नो युक्तक्लेशोः संरुदन् चित्तभास्माकृता स्नाना प्रेताश्रन्निरस्ति भूषणा असीवो मत्ता जनाप्रियः Preta Avisheshu at the burning places of dead bodies. Goreshu, horrible. Pretaha, by the Pretas. Bhuta Ganaha, by the Bhutas. Vritaha, accompanied by. Atati, he wanders. Unmatavat, like a madman. Nagna, naked. Vyupta Keshaha, having scattered hair. Hasan, laughing. Rudan, crying. Chitta, of the funeral pyre. Bhashma, with the ashes. Krita Snanaha, taking bath. Preta, of the skulls of dead bodies. Shrak, having a garland. Nir Asti Bhushanaha, ornamented with dead men's bones. Shiva, Apadeshaha, who is Shiva or auspicious only in name. He, for. Ashivaha, inauspicious. Mattaha, crazy. Mattat Jana Priyaha, very dear to the crazy beings. Pati, the leader. Pramatha Nathanam, of the lords of the Pramathas. Tama Matra Atmaka Atmanam, of those grossly in the modes of ignorance. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. He lives in filthy places like crematoriums, and his companions are the ghosts and demons, naked like a madman, sometimes laughing and sometimes crying. He smears crematorium ashes all over his body. He does not bathe regularly, and he ornaments his body with a garland of skulls and bones. Therefore, only in name he is Shiva or auspicious. Actually, he is the most and mad and inauspicious creature. Thus, he is very dear to crazy beings who are in the gross mode of ignorance, and he is their leader. Purport. Those who do not regularly bathe are supposed to be in association with ghosts and crazy creatures. Lord Shiva appeared to be like that, but his name Shiva is actually fitting, for he is very kind to persons who are in the darkness of the mode of ignorance, such as unclean drunkards who do not regularly bathe. Lord Shiva is so kind that he gives shelter to such creatures and gradually elevates them to spiritual consciousness. Although it is very difficult to raise such creatures to spiritual understanding, Lord Shiva takes charge of them, and therefore, as stated in the Vedas, Lord Shiva is all auspicious. Thus, by his association, even such fallen souls can be elevated. Sometimes it is seen that great personalities meet with fallen souls, not for any personal interest, but for the benefit of those souls. In the creation of the Lord, there are different kinds of living creatures. Some of them are in the mode of goodness, some are in the mode of passion, and some are in the mode of ignorance. Lord Vishnu takes charge of persons who are advanced Krishna conscious, Vaishnavas, and Lord Brahma takes charge of persons who are very much attached to material activities. But Lord Shiva is so kind that he takes charge of persons who are in gross ignorance and whose behavior is lower than that of animals. Therefore, Lord Shiva is especially called auspicious. Srimad Bhagavatam. Seeking your blessings, all of you, please bless me so that I can speak something on Srimad Bhagavatam on today's verse. Also, today is supposed to be the last day of Kartik. For devotees, it should be every day of Kartik, but according to calendar, it is the last day of Kartik. So every start of Kartik we have a Purnima, and every end of Kartik we have a Purnima. So today is also a Purnima, and today is the last day. So today it happened to be also appearance day of Nimbakacharya and also beginning of Katyayani Vrata. So I'll just speak briefly on those two, and then I'll also come to this verse. So we all know that there are, you know, four sampradayas, and among the four sampradayas, the fourth sampradaya is the Kumara sampradayas, Chatush Kumar sampradaya. So every sampradaya has a acharya to promote preaching as well as to promote the Guru Parampara succession. So for this sampradaya, the four Kumar sampradaya or the Chatush Kumar sampradaya, the acharya is Nimbakacharya, and today is his appearance day. So imagine, if he's born in the Kartik month, how auspicious he will be, or he is born in a very special time, right? So Nimbakacharya, I'll just briefly talk about him, just a few lines. He was born in South India, in Munegripad, that place called as Munegripad, and his parents were Arun Muni and mother was Jayanti Devi. So his father was mostly known as Aruni, and they were very devoted to Lord Vishnu. They were devotees of Lord Vishnu. Thank you. So when this Nimbakacharya was born to them, in the beginning of his life, he started showing very special symptoms, or devotee symptoms he was executing. And later on, he moved to Vrindavan. He stayed in Nandagram. After he grew up, he went to Nandagram. He stayed there for some time, and he also wrote 25 beautiful verses, and they are called as Sarvashesh Nirvishesh Krishna. He compiled these verses, very, very beautiful verses. And the place where he was living, that became Nimbaka Gram. The place where he was living in Vrindavan became Nimbaka Gram. And one day, there's a very nice pastime happened there in Nimbaka Gram. One time, one Jain Muni, a Jain sadhu or a Jain saint, came to debate with Nimbakacharya. And he wanted to argue about Siddhanta, about the Vishnu Tattva and Bhakti Tattva, all this. Eventually, there was a rule in olden days that whoever loses becomes the disciple of the winner, right? So the Jain Munis had a debate with Nimbakacharya, and eventually this Jain Muni lost. He lost to Nimbakacharya. So he had to become a disciple of Nimbakacharya, and he had to stay in the ashram of Nimbakacharya. So he agreed to it, and the debate happened from morning to evening. So in the evening, when everybody went to have prasad, have to get some prasad because they were all hungry. So this Jain Muni was not eating anything. He didn't eat anything. So then Nimbakacharya asked him, why are you not eating? So he said that in Jainism, we don't eat after sunset. We don't eat after sunset. We are not supposed to eat. So he felt very bad for him that whole day this person was debating and he agreed to be my disciple. So, he has to protect him, or he has to be nice to him. So what he did was, he did something amazing, which is not, which an ordinary person will not be able to do it. So he climbed a neem tree. There was a neem tree. He climbed on the neem tree, and he held the sun. It's unbelievable, but he did it. He held the sun so that he will not set. And that's how he asked you'll ask me, how is that possible? But it is said in the Shastra that he did it. He held the sun so that he will not set, and then he asked the Jain Muni to have some prasad. So once he had the prasad, he released the sun, and the sun set afterwards. So he was very kind to that Jain Muni. So this is, and because he climbed on the neem tree, okay, and Nimbakacharya. Arch is means sun. So he hold the sun. So that's why his name became Nimbakacharya. Okay, and how he became Acharya? That's also very interesting. In Belpukur, he met with Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva told him that you should meet with the four Kumaras, the Chatush Kumaras. So he got the darshan of Chatush Kumaras, and he was very much mesmerized with their beauty because they were very effulgent, very golden skin, very beautiful four boys. And he was very much attracted to them, and he said, wait a minute, this is not normal. They are not from this world. They are something different. So they gave him darshan, and then they asked him that there are already three sampradayas, and we are going to start with the fourth sampradaya, and you will be the acharya for our sampradaya. So that's how this Nimbakacharya became the acharya for the Kumara sampradayas. So we heard the name, but we don't know the details. So this is just the little details I wanted to share. So that's how we get Nimbakacharya as the acharya for our Kumara Sampradaya. Okay, and today is also the marking day of we have this Katyayani Vrata. Have you heard about this Katyayani Vrata, all the devotees? Yeah? Yeah, so in the Katyayani Vrata, all the gopis, it is given in 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sukdev Goswami describes it very elaborately, but I'll just finish in just two things. So in this when the Kartik is ending, the Katyayani Vrata starts. So supposed to be after Kartik, it's Vasanta. One sec. So after Kartik, everybody does this gopis does this Katyayani Vrata because they want Krishna as their husband. So what they do is they get up early in the morning, and before sunrise they get up, they take a bath in Yamuna, and they make a deity of sand, sand on the bank of Yamuna. They make a deity of Katyayani, and then they offer her sandalwood paste, they offer her garlands, they offer her nice fruits and flowers and some bogas, and they pray to her to give Krishna as their husband. And there is a very famous verse what they sing. Do you want to sing with me this verse? Katyayani Mahamaye Mahayogi Nadishvare Nanda Gopasutam Devim Pati Me Kurute Namaha. So they are praying to Katyayani Mata that please make this Nanda son as my husband. So they are praying, desperately praying, and it is said that in this month it is described in Bhagavatam that what austerities they go through, and they don't eat any spices, they just eat boiled vegetables and boiled grains without any spices. Also, I believe many, I don't know, when I was growing up, some counselors used to tell, the girls, if you want a good husband, pray to Katyayani, just sing these verses, 3 times in a day or 9 times in a day, and pray to Krishna that you get a devotee husband or something like that. So this mantra is very powerful for devotees who want to get married. I believe so, because this will definitely work since it is given in Bhagavatam. Okay, so this is about the 2 things I wanted to say, and briefly I will talk about the today's verse. So today's verse is it looks like a criticism, right? Bhagavatam always glorifies, but this verse is actually a criticism. But there is 2 ways to, Daksha is criticizing Lord Shiva. Why he is doing that? There's a reason. So what happens is they have a big yagya going on, and lot of all the demigods, Indra, and all the goddesses and gods, and everybody is accumulated in that. Lord Shiva is there and Brahma is there, everybody is there. And this Daksha Prajapati, he is going to do the yagya. He is supposed to be the progenitor, and he is very beautiful, he is very rich, and he has all the name and fame because that progenitor is a very big thing, he is doing like a big thing. So he is respected by everybody, and he walks into the hall where the yagya is supposed to happen. Everybody stands up when he comes, and only two people does not stand up. Who are they? Anybody knows? Brahma and Shiva. Brahma does not get up, it is understandable, he is his father. But still later he gets up and he welcomes him. But Lord Shiva, he also does not get up. Why? Because he is in trance. He doesn't do it purposely, but he is in trance. And he is in trance. But the moment Daksha sees that Lord Shiva is not paying any respect to him, he starts blaspheming him. He just starts blaspheming him. He doesn't know who is Lord Shiva, and he criticizing him so badly that he's always companies with ghosts and demons, and he's naked body, and he's wearing the skulls, and so many bad things he chastises him. But for devotees, when you hear all this chastisement, in fact, Mother Saraswati works on us, and we feel like, oh my God, Lord Shiva is doing such a great thing. Or if you just read this translation, we'll get confused. Just because Srila Prabhupada has given us the detailed purport, we understand the position of Lord Shiva, right? It is so beautifully described by Srila Prabhupada that Lord Shiva was on a mission. Why was he doing all these things? Having ashes on the body, skulls in the neck, loose hair, and mingling with ghosts and all that. Because he was on a mission. And what was his mission? He is the greatest of the devotee of Lord, and he has the most of the qualities. He is not among the demigods. He is above the demigods. He is not under material nature. He is not under three modes. Why? Because Durga Devi itself the wife. So he cannot be under the wife, right? So he is above all of them. And he has the duty to take care of all these people in ignorance. So he is on a mission, and he is doing a great work actually for the Lord. Anybody, Brahma is here, it's in the purport is given that Brahma is charge of persons in material activities or passion. Activities. Brahma is doing that. Or and Lord, Lord is maintaining, Lord Vishnu is maintaining. But somebody has to take charge of the people in ignorance. Basically, we avoid those type of people, but Lord Shiva, he is so merciful that he is taking charge of all these ghosts, all the drunkards, everybody, and helping them to climb the ladder, to come to next stage, to the higher stage. So it is said that if this ghost and all that, how they will get a better life. So it is said that anybody is having relationship in a wrong time, then Lord Shiva sends one of his ghosts and he takes a birth. So he takes a birth as a demon only, but he is getting opportunity like that. He is giving them chance. He is helping them actually. So it's very difficult, but he is doing that, and he is also very. I'll end with one pastime, very beautiful pastime. It is said that in 10th canto, wherein in one of the chapters, we see that Krishna stops the Vrajavasis to do Indra Puja. Just we are aware of that, right? He tells not to do the Indra Puja, but you do the Govardhan Puja instead. So offer everything to Govardhan, because Govardhan is helping all of us. So he mentions that. But later on, a few chapters after that, when Vrajavasis or the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they are preparing for Shivaratri, which is the puja for Lord Shiva. Krishna encourages them. Krishna does not stop them. Krishna encourages them to do Shivaratri puja. So this is the importance of Lord Shiva. And it is said in Brahma Samhita also, he is almost equal to Lord Krishna. And he is compared like that. So he is highest of among all the Vaishnavas, and he is very merciful. He drank the poison from Samudra Manthan to save the humanity, right? So he is a very kind-hearted, very nice person. and he comes to this, he is given the job of taking care of ignorance, and also he helps the people to get rid of their ego. So that's how we'll come to know later in further chapters how Daksha got rid of his ego. So how Lord Shiva helped him to do that. So we feel like it is criticism, but we understand the underlying meaning that he is such a great devotee of the Lord. So I'll end my class here. So any questions, any comments? Or yes, Prabhu? There's a lot to say, but we have limited time. So. Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mata, thank you for your class. I was thinking if a person in the mode of ignorance or a drunkard is supposed to worship Shiva instead of Krishna, or is a person in the mode of ignorance like a drunkard, is it supposed to worship Shiva instead of Krishna? Because you say like that he's so like Shiva is always taking care of the persons in the mode of ignorance.
Can ask them.
Not supposed to, but most likely will be attracted to, due to the influence of the mode that person's situated in. People in those lower modes are not generally attracted to worship Lord Vishnu, although everybody's supposed to, but some people unfortunately won't be.
Unfortunately, yes. They are attracted to that mode, actually, yeah. In fact, when I joined ISKCON, I was also thinking whether I should worship Lord Shiva or no, because, a lot of confusion will be there. But then the confusion was clear that, he is a devotee of Krishna, actually. He says in 10th canto somewhere, he tells to his wife, consort, that I like to chant Lord Rama's name. In fact, in Vishnu Sahasranam also, Rama Rameti is given by Lord Shiva, wherein chants Lord Ram's name. In fact, many devotees have that confusion whether we should go to the temple of Lord Shiva or no. But my Guru Maharaj took one yatra in South India one time, in Rameshwar, and just next to Rameshwar, because Ravan was killed, and immediately Ram came and prayed to Lord Shiva, kind of, because he is a disciple of Lord Shiva. He made a linga and he did a puja there, just in the shores of Rameshwar. So we all went there, and Maharaj gave class on Lord Shiva, and it was such a beautiful class, and we were like so mesmerized by that class. We all went and prayed to Lord Shiva to give us that kindness and mercy, and for being a devotee like that. So that concept was clear, that we have to pray to them to give us those good qualities to do bhakti to Krishna. Yes.
Since it's so important, the association, if Shiva is associating with ghosts and so many people in the mode of ignorance, and like Shiva is still in the material world, does he get contaminated by it? By the association with these ghosts, because he goes with the ghosts and everything?
He is a pure Vaishnava. He is the highest of among all the Vaishnavas. So pure soul does not get contaminated by any association. In fact, he gives association to those who are needing this association, so that they will become eventually better and better, and take up to Krishna consciousness or bhakti process. Yes, Prabhu.
Mataji, thank you for your class. In one section of your class, you will mention how Lord Shiva, in order to help the ghosts, he provide them shelter when the persons are not following the Vedic principles.
Yes.
And they're having illicit connections. So Lord Shiva makes these ghosts to take birth in those families. So I was thinking, so the Western civilization is full of ghosts because we didn't follow any Vedic principle.
That's why, Prabhu, you need to distribute these books more and more.
So that actually explains what happened in the Western, especially in the Western civilization, that we have this very bad sanskaras, tendencies, and all this?
Yes, that's why we need to preach more and more so that people come to temple, read our books and get to know that knowledge that what they are doing is wrong. Otherwise, how they will come to know? On their own, they are not supposed to come to know, right? Only by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, we are sitting here and listening to these classes, and we know from these books what is the reality, what we should do and what we should not do. But other than that, other people will not come to know unless we preach, unless we reach out to them. Yes.
This is a very dramatic scene with so many demigods and progenitors. Can you just maybe reflect so we know what is Krishna or Vishnu's plan behind this? Because when Lord Shiva and Brahma, they're also described as part of Paramatma, Super Soul. So why are they gathered here, and why is this thing about to happen, and how does it satisfy the Lord?
So, as we know that Brahma creates, he is a secondary creator. Lord Vishnu maintains everybody, and after every yuga there should be some destruction. So Lord Shiva is also part of that destruction. He does the Tandav Nritya and he destructs so that everything goes back where it was, and then again the new things start. So he's, as I said, he's on a mission given by Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu. He's on a mission for Lord Vishnu. So he's doing his duties. He doesn't like to do all this, wearing all this, skulls in his neck and ashes. But it is part of his duty to please the Lord. That's why he is doing all these duties.
So how does this part of the Bhagavatam please the Lord, is what I'm asking. Is it pleasing the Lord or no?
Prabhu wants to say something.
In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, after Uddhava and Krishna are having a conversation about the varieties of different leaders and different points of philosophical views, Krishna after explains that when this universe is destroyed, it's created again, and then he assigns for every living entity, the Bhutas, the ghosts, the Pisachas, demigods, demons, it has to be a leader who is like the teacher for that particular mode of nature that they're at. So behind all this, Krishna is there in the arrangement. So he is behind all that, according to that. He makes the arrangement. Because that particular jiva has a desire, is conditioned to that. And eventually, if they follow that, like Lord Shiva, it was mentioned, that when the ghosts are going with him and, okay, go there, take birth right there. And then eventually, you mentioned, it's going to be.
Yes, eventually, yes. In fact, I want to give example for Prabhu's question. Hiranyakashipu was born because of the wrong timings, right? Hiranyakashipu and his brother, yes. So, yeah. So, Hare Krishna. Yeah, any other question or comment, or we can end here? Okay. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Thank you for being patient with me.